Hey folks, Jim Zaspel here live from Philadelphia. On my way to meet with my man Chris Purcell for one of our regular meetings, go over a bunch of deals we got in the works. Chris is my acquisitionist, and I'm working on it with him so he can start doing his own deals soon. And he's actually doing some of his own already, but meanwhile he works for me. And anyway, what I want to talk about today is 5 critical steps on how to effectively negotiate with sellers. That is, people looking to sell their own house. And I'll tell you what, there's 5 steps, so you could fill in with more steps. These are the 5 basic steps that I use in my successful closing calls with negotiations with sellers. This is what I'm negotiating over the phone. So step 1 is ask lots of questions. I train Chris to ask up to 10 to 15 questions before he makes a single positive statement. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I learned from Tommy Hopkins. He's like one of the sales geniuses of the world. That he says a champion makes a single declarative statement ever. Only asks questions. You need to sell by asking questions and get the seller or whoever you're selling to sell themselves on whatever it is you're offering. Okay, so ask lots of questions. Step 2, listen. You're asking questions not just for any old reason, but you're asking questions for a couple of different reasons. 1, to build rapport with the seller. Okay, if you're just to get on the phone and then just straight up ask the seller, tell them, hey, I'll buy your house for X amount of dollars, or on these terms, it's not likely to work. They got to have rapport, know that they can trust you, and so that people, all else, learned this from, I forget where, but I heard this phrase, all else not being equal, people would rather do business with people they like. So remember that, people would rather do business with people they like. So you're going to ask questions and you're going to listen to them. Here's the other reason you listen. If you ask enough of if you ask enough questions and ask enough of the right questions, people will reveal to you, sellers will reveal to you their emotional trigger points as to why they need to sell their house. And that is crucial if you're going to capitalize on it, if you're going to be effective in negotiation. So again, when you're asking these 10 to 15 questions at the beginning of your conversation and then questions throughout your conversation with the seller, you need to be listening as to why they need to sell. Listen for their tones of voice. What really irks them? Is it the tenant who trashed their property once again? Is it they really need the cash? Is it they just can't afford to make this house payment for more than one or two more months? Is it they just don't want the embarrassment of having their name in the newspaper in the foreclosure? What is their emotional trigger point or points, and capitalize on that? So that's step 1, step 2, and then step 3 is recap and reiterate. I made this one up myself because I liked it. Recap and reiterate. Here's what I mean by that. The seller, you've asked a bunch of questions. They've told you their emotional trigger points. So let's say, for instance, the seller is like, Jim, I just can't afford to make these payments anymore. And so I might say, so what you're telling me, Mr. Seller, is that really you just want to get out from underneath having to make these monthly payments. You don't really care much about anything else. Is that right? Or isn't that right? Well, yeah, that's more or less right. Okay, great. How about this? And this is the 4th step, commitment and consistency. People are absolutely, everybody, whether or not it makes sense, wants to be consistent with the things they've committed to be, what they hold to be true. So they've told you that they don't want to make the payments anymore. Okay? They told you they don't want to make their payments. They can't make the payments in this scenario, whatever the case is. And so you say, well, great. Well, tell you what, Mr. Seller, how about if I start making your mortgage payments for you? Well, sure, I'd like that. Great. Here's how this is going to work. And here's step 5 of effective negotiation skills, is speak plain English. I'm not talking about an accent or anything like that. I'm not talking about that at all. What I'm talking about is don't use industry terms. Don't use technical terms to describe a simple transaction. Let's say I'm wanting to buy a house on a lease option. Here's what I might say. I don't use the words lease option. I don't ever say the word deed or mortgage usually or anything like that, unless I'm saying like mortgage payments or something like that. So, Mr. Seller, here's what I can do for you. If you want me to make your mortgage payments, I will. Let me back up a half step and show you and tell you how I sell houses. Here's how I sell houses. When I sell a house on kind of a delayed sale. By that I mean we find good people who want to own a home, and they've got a little bit of credit issues. Maybe they can afford a home is the point. We sell it to them, rent it to them for a little while, and then give them time to get a loan, cash them out. We help them through the whole process. And here's how that relates to our situation, Mr. Seller, between you and me, is if I'm going to sell on a delayed sale, I'm not able to pay cash for your house because, there's holding costs. And frankly, you owe a lot more than the house is worth for me to pay cash. So what I am willing to do is, as soon as I find this tenant buyer for me, I'll enter into an agreement with you that says I'll make your mortgage payments for you, okay? And at some point in the near future, I'll pay off your mortgage. But in the meantime, you know your mortgage payments are being kept current. Wouldn't it be nice to know that your mortgage payments are being kept current and to not have to worry about this anymore? You see how I just sealed that up right there? Now, what did I do? Did I say the words lease option? No, I didn't. I said we'll fill out some simple paperwork that says. So anyway, 5 steps. 1, see if I can repeat them. 5 steps. 1, ask questions. 2, listen. 3, recap, reiterate. And step 4 was commitment consistency. Step 5, speak plain English when you're making your offer. This is Jimmy Z signing out from JimZaspel.com. Hope you enjoyed this. Leave me a comment if you did. Have a good one.